We are live. It is on point with Juandolyn Stokes right here on News and Talk. WAOK, and we're so delighted to have Georgia Representative Bryce Berry sharing with us today. A pleasant good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I am great. It's even better to be on with you today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Good.
I first want to talk to you about, just being the need for having younger voices in
Mm.
politics nowadays. Talk to us about why there is a need. We say it, but we don't
Mhm.
see a whole lot of it. And so it's just great to see you and just be able to talk to you about it. But why should we have more younger people involved in politics?
Yeah, well, of course. It's important to have younger people involved in politics because this is a time of change. And as we see, our democracy is very fragile and is actually falling apart before our very eyes. And the reason we need young people in office is because we bring that fresh perspective, that fresh ideas, and new ways to invigorate our democracy. We have that passion, we have that drive, we have that fight. And there are voices that are ready and standing ready to defend democracy. We just need leaders that are prepared to hand over the reins to the next generation of leaders so that we can step up and take over and lead. Our democracy is very fragile, and we don't have time for leaders that continue to keep producing the same old ideas, the same old policies that simply are not working. It is time for folks to come in there to bring a new perspective, to bring new ideas, and to ensure that we keep our democracy intact.
Well, give me an example, just of one thing or one area, for example, that you feel that young policymakers can certainly make an impact and difference to.
Well, look, I think look at the economic approach that we're talking about.
Okay.
We've had it's often been tax cuts versus raising taxes for the rich, but it's not just that binary. It's about building an economy that works for all of us. So we're talking about things like free childcare and ensuring that you don't have to pay an exuberant amount of money, basically a second rent, to ensure that your child go to preschool. It's talking about things like free college, so that college and affordability and the American dream is not an outside opportunity for our young people. We're talking about things like building more housing. So it's not just the binary of like who raises taxes on who. It's about how do we build an economy that works for every single person and ensures that every single person can get ahead and get by.
I think that's a challenge and making sure that something works for everybody. So let's key in on Georgia and Georgians here. As a Georgia State Representative, with this big bill, the passing of this bill, how is it going to impact Georgians?
It is going to be very, very devastating. You're going to see the majority of Georgians pay more in taxes actually because we've funded more tax cuts for the wealthy and for the billionaires. You're going to see more Georgians that lose their health care. We just recent report shows that 37 nursing homes will close because of this bill. And I'll just break down for a second right there as well. That is seniors losing the places they call home and stability. And that we cannot allow that to happen in a state that has already refused to expand Medicaid. You'll see where 500,000 Georgians lose access to food assistance. And that, as a teacher, for me, my students sometimes that's the only meal they get in a day. You know, school meals, free school lunches for breakfast and lunch, that's sometimes the only meal my students will get. So to cut this crucial, critical food assistance, this bill is going to be the most cruel cutback that Jordans have ever seen. And it's going to be devastating. It's not nothing beautiful about it. Beauty is an eye beholder, and the beholder is not looking good right now. This is going to be devastating for Jordans across the field. I haven't even gotten to wages going down, the loss of jobs. We've just created new green energy plants and new electric vehicle plants down in South Georgia that might have to close down now because they've lost their tax credits. It's going to be so devastating for the people of Georgia.
Do Georgians not really understand what's getting ready to happen, or are Georgians just not aware, or are they just living in denial of the reality of this picture?
Well, I think what the administration did well is ensure that this was passed swiftly and ensure that it was not that much notice about it.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends, politically connected friends, who still don't know what's in this bill because this bill kind of got rushed through in the dead of night. It was literally passed in the dead of night. So
Yeah.
um, I think the administration did a good job ensuring that we were in the blind side. and I think some people in the media kind of let that happen as well. Um, but ultimately, this is our job as legislators and our job as informed individuals to continue to go out there in the community, let them know what the Republican Party and the party of Donald Trump is doing right now to our people. I've done a press conference on it. I've talked about it in the news constantly about education cuts, about Medicaid cuts. I'm doing what I can to let my community know that I'm stepping up to fight for them in their stead, and we need more leaders like that.
Yeah, that's great. We're going to go to break and we'll be right back with more State Representative Barry sharing with us today, right here on Point with Juandolyn Stokes. As we continue here live on Facebook, talk to us about, you were talking about tax breaks for like the plants in South Georgia. Like, how does that really play out?
Mhm.
Because what type of plants are these EV car plants or that are
Well,
getting
yes,
those?
in the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed by President Biden back in 2022, it included several tax credits for the purchasing of electric vehicles and for the creation of electric vehicles. And Georgia benefited greatly from that. We built there's a Hyundai plant in South Georgia, and there's a Kia plant in West Georgia that is being built and is producing electric vehicles right here in Georgia. And they were built because of these tax credits that was provided by the Inflation Reduction Act. Now that it's been repealed, these workers are at risk because there's no incentive now to keep those factories open. And that's the
Wow.
unfortunate thing. And we hope that they remain open, but there's no incentive to keep it open because this administration is trying to push us towards fossil fuels, which is going to continue to hurt our environment.
Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes. When it comes to fossil fuels, and even this administration's understanding of the impact of fossil fuels, it seems like they're just totally ignorant to any idea of how this can impact the environment, and so
Hmm.
certainly down here in the South in Georgia, it could impact us. You also, and while we're talking about the environment, are there things in the bill that will work against the environment here for Georgians?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you have this whole push to drill, as he says, drill baby drill, that is going to continue to harm our communities, um, create more pollution, it's not going to lower gas prices. It's not going to lower gas prices as he thinks going to happen. In fact, you might see gas prices rise because of the continuing conflict in the Middle East and that he's perpetuating himself. Um, so what he's doing with rolling back these tax credits, um, putting more incentives to coal and fossil fuels, we know that these are pollutants that overwhelmingly affect Black and Brown communities. And so this bill kind of gives a green light to that kind of pollution and to that kind of harm to happen to our communities.
Well, some of the studies that have been done by scientists have clearly shown
Mhm.
in the Black communities, Black and Brown communities, whether it's in the Weston area, Candler Road area, and even in other
Mhm.
cities and rural areas. I mean, what happened down in Conyers,
Yeah.
the plant there, and it was another area not too long ago. But we're seeing the impact of people really dying and lives being taken away and people being impacted by these.
And that's what happens when you have a bill that is so cruel that doesn't care about anybody but billionaires. This bill ignores quite literally every single person. If you are a poor person, if you are a teacher, if you are a firefighter, if you are a student, this bill ignores your needs, ignores your will, and it does all of that just to fund a couple billionaires. And to me, that is the most damning thing about this. It didn't give a care in the world about 99% of the American public. And only cared about that 1%. And that's why, going back to the conversation earlier, we need younger voices. We need a new generation of people that can look out for for the 99%, and that can say that we should not have a country that accepts bailouts for the 1% over the goodwill and the benefit of the 99.
Absolutely, absolutely. For those of you who are listening, you're listening to On Point with Juandolyn Stokes on News and Talk WAOK. We have Georgia State Representative Barry sharing with us today. We're talking about the impact of this big bill from the Trump administration, and how it will impact residents of Georgia, and we've been talking about the big impact it's going to have on jobs, on our
Mhm.
environment, on nutritional programs, for children. It's bigger than you think, and you need to be in the
Hmm.
know. And that's why we have guests like Representative Barry sharing with us. Representative Barry, as you were talking, when it comes to our health care, what is it about? Because I know that a part of your plan and mission is to have Medicaid expanded here in
Hmm.
Georgia. So, how would this bill affect Georgians when it comes to Medicaid?
Yes, so actually it's going to cut Medicaid funding. It cuts over $1 trillion over the next 10 years of Medicaid
Wow.
funding. So you will see Georgians that will lose healthcare, more Georgians that will lose healthcare. And think about it this way. Governor Kemp already has refused and actually gloats and brags with the fact that he has not expanded Medicaid. So adding on to the fact that we have seen over 20 hospital closures in the last 20 years, that's about a hospital per year. That adds to the fact that we're now expected to lose 37 nursing homes in our state. Adds to the fact that we have already lost jobs because of this. And now we're cutting $1 trillion from the program that's going to overwhelmingly affect older Georgians and Georgians that are just born, our babies. Those are
Wow.
people that are majority on Medicaid, babies,
Right,
kids
right.
under 18. Those are people that are majority on Medicaid. And so it is not some wasteful program. And that's because they don't have the will, or they can't repeal the Affordable Care Act, and they should not repeal the Affordable Care Act. But what they're doing is they're going at the margins. They're just making it weaker and weaker and weaker. And so Georgians will see healthcare costs rise, but also healthcare opportunities lower. And that's the unfortunate thing about this bill. And again, I just look at it from the context of, you know, Governor Kemp has tried to parade as this moderate, this anti-Trump person, but he's not. Everything he has done has been to please the president, and everything he has done has been to hurt Georgians. And expanding Medicaid is now we can't even say expanding Medicaid is the end all be all, because we need to go further in expansion of Medicaid. We need single payer healthcare. We need universal healthcare in Georgia. That's the only way we can build back out of the destruction that's been caused by the governor and the president in cahoots.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do it by just eliminating taxes from gas tax or giving
Hmm.
teachers a little raise. That's not enough to compensate for what's really at stake here. When you talk about the masses, because when you are elected for office, you're supposed to be looking out for the welfare of the masses of people. And though we may not always agree on certain things, but still, it's got to make sense and it's got to be right. The SNAP programs, the nutritional food assistant programs. What are we going to see play out in this bill for Georgians?
Well, again, just like we saw with Medicaid, you're going to see more Georgians go hungry. This cuts overwhelmingly. This cuts funding from SNAP. It cuts funding from WIC, funding from Meals on Wheels. Georgians will lose that critical food assistance. I think the statistic was about over 500,000 Georgians lose that food assistance. And again, I'm gonna break down as a teacher. Um, Students that rely on the free school lunches. And the most cruel part to me, besides Medicaid cuts, but the cruelest part is the cuts to free school lunches.
Yeah,
And excuse my language, how in the hell can you even justify that free school lunch is some type of waste? How can we justify morally and as a Christian, how can you call yourself a Christian, a follower of Christ, if you don't think that your children, God's children, deserve to eat? That to
that's
me is
right.
the most callous, cruel thing that this administration has done. They've called they have gaslit the American public to believe that food for our kids is waste over yachts for billionaires. That
Wow.
is a waste to me. I don't want a billionaire to eat another yacht. I want my kids to get fed morning, evening, and afternoon. That's what I
Yeah,
want.
yeah, yeah. It's unbelievable. A lot of things that's coming from this administration. How can this model even survive?
Mhm.
How can, in the long run, support billionaires when you've got people that are going to lose their jobs? You got people who won't have health care. People will be starving,
Mhm.
and not have food. So how will billionaires be able to continue, to make money off of the poor? Is it forced labor that they're kind of trying
Mhm.
to shift towards? How can that happen?
Well, as we see from this bill, billionaires will always benefit as long as they have a government and their leaders behind them. And as so long as the leadership of the government has billionaires in mind, they will always benefit some way, somehow. And if that means the largest transfer of wealth in American history, that is fine with them. They might not need forced labor, they might not need the workers. They have a government that's behind them. So that's why it's coming upon all of us to step up, to vote out leaders that are beholden to billionaires, and to ensure that we have leaders that are beholden to working people. Working people have got to lead the movement for justice and for economic revitalization of this country. We cannot
Yeah.
continue to see large transfers of wealth to the billionaire class. I'm not going to go as far to say I think we're
Yeah.
billionaires will rely on forced labor, but I do believe that so long as the billionaires have a government on their side, they will continue to be benefited. They
They'll,
continue to
yeah, they'll
benefit.
always benefit. So the call to
Mhm.
action, you've already mentioned voting. Anything you wanted to add to that in terms of voting, making sure you read, know about these candidates? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Any additional things to voting?
Well, yes, stay engaged, stay involved, and know who your leaders are. I represent downtown, midtown, and southwest Atlanta, the best parts of Atlanta, the most fun parts of Atlanta. So if you are in that area, if you're near the Mercedes-Benz Stadium or West Side, you're probably my district. I'm your representative. Know who your representatives are. Know who your senators are. Know who your council people are, commissioners. Go to them, force them, speak to them. Make sure that you are holding their feet to the fire for the promises that we made to elect them, that we made to you when you elected us. I'm sorry. But also, if you are in one of the Republican districts, run, run for office. There are 180 seats in the Georgia State House. Last year, I believe only about 150 of them were contested. We need to run in every single seat. And you might not win every single seat because of partisan gerrymandering, and that's okay. But at least your voice is out there. At least you've
Yeah.
made your voice known and heard, and you've given your people an option. This a second to think back and like, how is representation really serving us? So I don't care if you get 3% of polls, you have caused 3% of your community to sit back and think that the representation is not serving them. So run for office and don't be afraid. And if you ever need help, I'm gonna just plug it right now. Follow me on Instagram at Barry4J56, on Instagram at Barry4J, on Twitter. Follow me, reach out to me. I'm gonna help you run for office. I help you raise money because we got to get good people in office. I believe that good people in office can do good things.
That's good. That's good. I want you to issue a challenge out there to younger individuals to get more involved, like you were talking earlier about running for office, but to get more involved in this
Mm.
process because we need younger voices like yourself.
Yes, and not only do we need younger voices, but we need people like you that are able to elevate younger voices and also able to train. I think the biggest critique of younger voices is often, oh, they're not ready, they're not trained, they don't. But my question is always to the older generation, what have you done to train us? What have you
Yeah.
done to prepare us? If you think we're so unprepared, what have you done? Have you hosted a seminar? Have you brought me into your office? That's what I love about my minority leader, Carolyn Yulee, down in Columbus. When I first was elected, she brought me to her office. She talked to me. She still mentors me. She still checks up on me. She's doing the work. So to the old generation, what are you doing to mentor the younger generation? But to the younger generation, also don't wait. Sometimes the meeting might not happen. Sometimes people are rigid and in their egos. Don't wait. Run. You have capability now. If you have the idea, if you have the thought, and if you know you are the best person, go for it. Do it. Study. Show the word scripture tells us study and show yourself approved.
So
So
self-approved.
study and show yourself approved. Show yourself approved. Get out there. Get your name out there. Go organize. Go mobilize. And even if it's just your friends, that's still doing something. That's
That's
still
right.
moving mountains. You don't have to run for office like me. Hell, I barely want to run for office when I started running for office. At first I did get really, really, really pushed into running for office. I was scared myself. I was scared myself, but I did it. And so you don't have to run for office, but you do have a responsibility to yourself, to your friends, and to this democracy to ensure that everyone's educated about what's going on and that everyone knows that we all have a part to play.
That's great. That's great. And then your final thought. What is your thought to a mind process who says there's no need to vote, nothing's going to change? What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I used to be very prophetic about it,
Okay.
but I
Okay.
understand. I understand. The system is broken. I think that anybody should sugarcoat around it. The system is broken. But you vote for leaders that force us to fix it. And if you have a leader, Democrat or Republican, that is not working to fix the system or to recreate a new system, vote them out. I said as a
Thank you.
proud Democrat, if there's a Democrat that's not is a part of the system and just going along with the establishment, vote them out. This is a Republican, same thing, vote them out. The system is broken. We need folks in there that can recreate a new system, that can create a new system. And I understand sentiment. I understand that every single time politicians come around, every single election year, go to churches, shake hands, kiss babies, do the whole 9 yards. I'm trying to create something new, and I want folks to join me in creating something new. And so I can speak for myself to the apathy. I'm trying to create something new. I need you. I need your involvement. Um, and I encourage you to find folks like myself and like my good friends like Gabriel Sanchez up in North Cobb, and you have Eric Bell down in Clayton County, both
Yeah.
men who are doing good work in their communities. Find folks that are doing good work, uplift them, stand behind them, work for them, emulate them, and go do that same thing in your community.
That's good. That's great. Bryce Berry, how can people follow you and stay connected to the great work that you're doing here for Georgians?
Yes. Yes. Again, at Barry for GA 56 4 spelled out FOR, at Barry for GA 56 on Instagram, at Barry for GA on Twitter. And I'd be remiss as a candidate, my campaign manager would be mad at me. You can also donate to me at barry4ga.com. Go to barry4ga.com. You can leave me $1, $10, $15 to fund this campaign so we can win again and continue to build that Georgia that we know we deserve. barry4ga.com.
I love it. I love it. Make sure you support barryforgeorgia.com. Give your support. We've got one that's out there, smart, intelligent, making a difference, and he's passionate about Georgians. He's passionate about people. He's very passionate about education, about Medicaid expansion, about the environment, and so many more other things that are dear to his heart. And you can continue to help make a difference. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Awesome.
Thank
And
you.
we'll be in touch. Anything we can do to help you, let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Have a great one.
Bye
It's
bye.
on point with Juandolyn Stokes for News and Talk WAOK. We'll go to break and we'll be back with more. Always listen weekdays, 10 a.m. until 1